In less than 2 weeks, the United States, Canada, and Mexico will host the World Cup of the planet's most popular sport, soccer, or as it's known in much of the rest of the world, football. But that debate over its name is far from the only point of contention. The tournament is happening during one of the most turbulent geopolitical moments in recent memory, when the leader of a host nation has threatened or attacked one of every 13 nations in the world across his two terms, imposed sweeping tariffs globally, and is currently waging a protracted war in the Middle East. For more, I'm joined by an avid follower of both geopolitics and what he calls football, Ishan Tharoor. He is a contributor for The New Yorker. Ishan, it's good to see you. So many have highlighted that President Trump is tying the World Cup now to his own personal legacy. He accepted a so-called Peace Prize from the FIFA president, Gianni Infantino. But is there a cloud hanging over this, given the political concerns for so many of these fans around the world, seeing some of Trump's policies, and also just the polarization that we're seeing as well?
That's absolutely right. There is certainly quite a bit of gloom hanging over this World Cup. The World Cup, as you said, it's the most beloved sporting event in the world. It's this one showpiece event that attracts billions of followers. And it usually is, I think when the U.S. hosted it in 1994, it was this incredibly exuberant, amazing celebration of America and the arrival of soccer to a certain extent in the United States. It was a very celebrated tournament. That optimism and energy that we saw, almost more than 30 years ago is not there right now. There's, of course, as you said, the shadow of geopolitics over this, Trump's war-making in the Middle East and elsewhere. And you've seen over the previous months, especially building up to this tournament, a profound amount of distaste, disgust, especially in Europe, with the way this World Cup has been organized, the extent to which FIFA President Gianni Infantino has cozied up to President Trump. There are fears over people being detained at airports. There's widespread indignation about the prices associated with this World Cup, whether it's stadium tickets or hotels or even the ability to park a car in certain venues. So there's a lot of pessimism about the way this tournament is going to unfold. At the same time, it's going to be a fascinating tournament. It's the biggest World Cup ever. And in general, when we have World Cups in the past, there is a lot of skepticism and gloom perhaps before the event. But once the ball gets kicked, once things get rolling, narratives do shift.
And you mentioned how some Europeans are responding to all of this. Nearly half of the German public supported a boycott over U.S. foreign policy. Obviously, that's not going to happen. But you also have pushed back on this notion of the novelty of politics invading sports, noting that this goes back to Mussolini's hosting of the 1934 World Cup. So what actually is different this time around?
That's right. The World Cup has always been an easy vehicle for politics to take place, and has previous nations in the past, including Mussolini, used it as a set piece for their politics. In Mussolini's case, for fascist Italy in the 1930s. What's different right now, I think, is the intense personalization of this, the way in which President Trump really is the defining figure of the tournament, and the way in which FIFA has, and specifically FIFA President Gianni Infantino, has approached him and really cultivated him. The case Infantino may want to make is that he needs to keep President Trump on side to make things go smoothly. But I think that a lot of people have been very uncomfortable by the way in which the World Cup, which is being hosted, of course, by 3 countries, not just the United States, has become, in many people's minds, Trump's World Cup. And Trump certainly doesn't want to disabuse anybody of that impression. And I think, on a certain level, that makes a lot of people uncomfortable, just because the World Cup is not about President Trump. It's not about the American team. It's about this global event of nations coming together, and we're going to have real concerns about how some of these nations can come together. Can the Iranian team play properly with the right visas in this tournament? We still don't really know. You saw World Cups, previous ones in Qatar, in Russia. These are not exactly the most open countries in the world. But when the World Cup happened, they really rolled out the red carpet for visitors. The U.S. is certainly not doing that this time.
Right, and the president is really taking sort of a liking to now noting the timing of this happening as the United States celebrates 250 years. Is there an argument to be made that given some of those concerns, we know the Iranian team is set to play in 2 states here, California and Washington states, but their fans are barred. There are concerns about Ebola as well. The ACLU has warned travelers about ICE and their presence at some of these games. But if we do see more of a domestic crowd show up at these games, does that not perhaps give Trump the perception and the audience that he's hoping for?
Maybe. And, I think, especially in the United States, this may end up being, as you said, the tournament that is defined by the energy of American fans, but specifically the immigrant diaspora. I think, for example, the Iranian game in Los Angeles is going to be this incredible event where you have, one of the world's biggest Iranian diasporas or Persian diasporas participating. And you'll see that play out with numerous other countries in the United States that have large immigrant populations within the United States. So that may be what this World Cup is remembered for. Not the fact that visitors came, but the fact that it showcased America's diversity. It showcased the amazing kind of tapestry that makes up this country. But that's not exactly the political narrative President Trump has been touting, especially in this second term either.
Well, you have described this Team USA roster as a diverse group of a humbler America, as the sport has now edged past baseball as America's third favorite sport. Thank you so much. Really enjoyed this conversation.
Great to be with you, Bianna.
All right, up next on GPS, Fareed will be back with a surprising interview. Can one of humanity's most ancient practices save us from the modern scourge of disconnection?